What's up, people, and welcome back to Philosophy 101, a series where I actually put my undergrad and master's degree to good use to help you guys understand some cool philosophical concepts. On today's episode, we'll be covering the fourth and final of the main philosophical pillars, logic. And logic could be argued to be the most useful concept that you can learn from philosophy since you use it every single day. Therefore, it has a lot of real-world utility and is somewhat popular. It basically carries you through all of your interactions with people, especially problems, and also arguments and debates. And I say somewhat popular because sometimes logic is extremely confusing. Just look at one of the answers I had to write to my intermediate logic exam in my second year. Safe to say, I did not pick advanced logic for third year. After intermediate logic, I was done. That was it. Anyway, in philosophy, logic is the study of correct reasoning and valid inference, focusing on the principles that govern thought and argument independently of their content. Or in simpler terms, logic is just like maths, but you substitute all of the numbers for words and sentences, and instead of using a bunch of equations, you just use different rules. Like maths, logic has some core principles that found it. Some of these include the law of identity, the law of excluded middle, and the law of non-contradiction. Now, a common logical statement that you might hear is someone telling you that your argument is not valid. And if someone says this to you, you just have to ask yourself, would your conclusion be true if all of your premises were true as well? If so, you can tell them to shush their mush, because they're wrong. But if not, you might want to swiftly leave that debate and think about that next time before you go to the debate club. Now, sound arguments are just valid arguments where you don't have to assume that the premises are true. They are just true. So a sound argument is an argument where all of the premises are true and the conclusion is true. Therefore, a sound argument is a valid argument, but a valid argument isn't necessarily a sound argument. Now, understanding what these kinds of valid and sound arguments are very important when you're debating people. If your takes are littered with invalid or unsound arguments, it can be very difficult to convince your opponent, especially if they know that your arguments are invalid and unsound, of anything really. And this is a common theme. Often people have the foundation or the basis of good arguments, but the way that they phrase them means that they end up being invalid and they lose almost all of their power. And like I said in episode 1, understanding valid and sound arguments is like having all of the answers to a test. It's literally like cheating, especially because most people do not have those answers too. Another added bonus of being logically adept is that you end up being pretty good at solving problems. This is because most problems require some form of good reasoning or logical understanding. It's also why all of the kids in my intermediate logic class that were good at that module were all maths kids. It's just who they are. So now you understand what logic broadly is in philosophy, how it's useful every single day, and why it's important to argue logically. Now, hit the follow button to learn about the next cool philosophical concept, and I'll see you all in the next one. Peace.